He loved the worlds of swords and magic. From a very young age he was always drawn to fantasy stories. He could stay up nights for days on end enjoying the worlds of these stories. Ren Shiina was a fourth-year university student. The guy had successfully completed the game and was insanely happy about it. He thought that probably this passing of his would be the fastest in the world. Ren had been busy lately trying to find a job, and only this weekend was free for a long-awaited new playthrough of the game. Legend of the Seven Heroes, the world's favorite fantasy RPG game. This is the second installment of the trilogy, a classic story in which streams of heroes who once defeated a demon lord fight against those who plot the return of the Demon King. The second part sees the greatest upheaval history has ever seen. A friend of the protagonist kills a girl nicknamed the Saint, plunges the country into chaos, and leaves many mysteries unanswered. Until finally the Emperor orders him to kill his friend, leaving the continuation of the story for part 3. From the comments, the protagonist realized that there seemed to be a couple of other people who had completely gone through the game rather quickly. From this, he concluded that the protagonist's friend was behind everything after all. Well, for now, he decided to go through again. Maybe he could find some hidden skills or something. The game offered to start a special branch of the story with the skill of summoning a magical sword. The guy wondered, is there really a character out there with that skill? He agreed. After that, he found himself in a different space and felt his strength leaving him. The first person he saw was an old woman to whom the baby seemed good. The woman next to him was also very happy. She was sure he would grow up healthy. The main character did not realize what was happening. He could not see well and his body could hardly move. He couldn't realize if it was a dream or reality. The protagonist immediately remembered the special branch of the plot. This is ridiculous. He knows it should be impossible. But isn't this classic fantasy? He realized he had been reborn. The woman has already come up with a name for him. This baby's name is Ren Ashen. He remembered that in the Legend of the Seven Heroes, the one who caused all the commotion was a former best friend who betrays the protagonist. One of the main enemies, a dangerous character who was suspected of villainy. The guy didn't understand why he was suddenly in the game. He shared the same name with him with the same pronunciation, Ren, so he felt some kinship with him. But why, out of all the characters, did he become him? The boy fearlessly practiced with the sword. His attempted attack was unsuccessful. The man advised him not to jump recklessly or he would risk getting into a similar situation. The boy, trying to catch his breath, agreed with him. The man decided that that was enough for today. Ren considered it his shame. He couldn't move. His father replied that he was doing fine. Even though he's his child, he can't believe he's only 7. It is springtime, and it has been more than 7 years since the early days of his reincarnation, and he is now in the west of the Elven continent in the war state, the Liamal Empire, in an unnamed village in the middle of nowhere. Come to think of it, he was very upset at first, and couldn't accept the reality of the situation. After living in the body of a child for 6 months, he gave up. And Ren still keeps it a secret from his parents, that after reincarnation he could see the so-called status screen just by thinking about it. Unlike the game, there are no columns with level, magic, and attack power, but it seems more realistic. However, Ren had never heard of the magic sword summoning skill. Above all, the game has a complex element. There are hidden skills in the game, starting from the second game. You can combine up to 3 existing skills, and you can even create your own. And there are also so-called unique skills that are only available to special characters. He realized that summoning a magic sword was definitely one of those unique skills. At the moment, Ren can only summon a tiny wooden magic sword. According to the description, the art of summoning a magic sword is a technique that allows you to summon and use a magic sword to increase your skill, instead of with and increases strength and physical power. His ability, Minor Elemental Magic, if Ren remembered correctly, it was a skill that could be used to grow plants during battle. It was best not to try it in his room. Also, by fulfilling special conditions, it said that one could unlock new types of swords. Even if he upgrades the level of the wooden magic sword and the art of summoning magic sword, the next sword would only be the iron magic sword. It seems to him that in terms of strength, it would also be quite modest. It seems that every time one summons any sword, it absorbs the magic power in the body, and when it runs out, a raging headache begins. At worst, one could faint, and the only way to avoid this is to keep practicing every day, and also to develop magical power. He thought there would be an easier way to level up in the game. The boy's father came into the room, and Ren was afraid that he would notice his sword. In any case, based on his current abilities, there is no doubt that this world is closely related to the Legend of the Seven Heroes. What he means is that there is that future in his future that he must avoid. If the worst happens, he must be able to defend himself. Therefore, Ren spent his childhood secretly developing his magical abilities and devoted himself to accumulating knowledge of the world. And now he is already 7. His father, returning from a hunting trip, suggested that the boy try practicing with a sword. He asked him to go to the storehouse and choose a wooden sword to practice with. Ren liked the idea. The man let him hit as hard as he could. His father admitted that he had never taught others how to fight with a sword, but he had also learned it from his father. The boy decided to attack. The man appreciated his dash. He told him to keep it up until his body stopped moving. The protagonist's body is surprisingly physically healthy after reincarnation. But because he is only 7 years old, he lasted less than 30 minutes at his first workout. His father thought that wasn't bad for the first time. Ren told him to go home for now. He would get some rest and come over soon too. The man decided to stop by later. The boy's skill level had increased. It was because he used the wooden magic sword. From that day on, in addition to studying in the mornings, he spent time in the afternoons with his father practicing with the sword. By the way, if one used an item called magic stone that could be obtained from the demon's body, he could increase the skill of his magic sword. But it didn't work with the magic stone his father gave him earlier, so it seems he can only use the stones of the demons he defeated himself. Anyway, unlike the legend of the 7 heroes, here he has no time to relax. That means he will have to train hard and diligently. And it's been over a month since then. Father has noticed that compared to before, Ren can keep practicing much longer. His center of gravity is easily shifted by simply knocking his hips down. The man thinks it's time to call it a day. The child replies that he can still keep going. The father asked him to calm down and explained that he could get hurt from overdoing it. Day after day he fights to the limit. Ren is doing very well. He decided to let him rest until lunchtime. The boy knew that in a few days, he would be able to level up his magic sword summoning art. It had been quite a long time. Even if Ren practiced to the hilt, he still only got 2 points of the level scale. But when he thinks of it as a level increase, it becomes easier. Perhaps it's because he's a gamer. Lately, each new day has been a little more fun. The boy's mom discovered that he had rubbed calluses on his beautiful hands again. She thought his father's training was too brutal for him. He has only muscles in his head. Ren replied that it was okay. He was already used to it because he liked practicing with the sword. Mom agreed with him. The Ashtons are a family of knights who protect their village, so the love of swords is innate. The child thought that mom didn't like swords. Turns out she's afraid of them. His father had been practicing swordsmanship since childhood, and was so brave that he wasn't even afraid of demons at his age. He had saved his mom more than once, but sometimes she is scared to death that one day he might get hurt badly because of his bravery. Of course, she admires him very much. He hunts demons for them, makes money for them to live in prosperity, and shares the meat in the village. The man asked her not to worry. He is strong. He won't let any demons here harm him, and he won't be as reckless as he used to be, because what matters most to him is to be happy with his family. The boy reflected on his family. Ren's parents divorced when he was born in his previous life, and his mom took him in. But as the years went by, they began to communicate less and less. And when he grew up even more, she stopped coming home altogether. And Ren is grateful to her for sending him to university. He's sure she had her reasons. Father and son were practicing again and were going to do it again tomorrow. Compared to the past, now each of his days was better than the last. In addition to the usual battles, his father also trained his abilities in physical exercises. The child read a lot, learning more and more about the world, and had a good time with his family. While practicing, Ren fell to the ground again. The man decided to call it a day, but the boy said he could still continue. Suddenly he felt something strange and raised his hand. The father thought he had hurt himself. In fact, Ren's body became so light. He was not going to stop. The boy was the first to rush into the attack. His next actions surprised his father. He did not expect such speed and power from him and told him to hit without respite. Ren felt his speed and strength increase. The man didn't understand what had happened and how could a child suddenly become so strong. The father suddenly stopped. He lifted the boy above him. He hadn't realized that his son had skills. At the sound came Myral's mother. Her husband happily informed her that he didn't know much because he had no skills, but it seems that his skill level had increased during his training. There was no other way to explain the sudden increase in his strength. Ren remembered that the small increase in physical ability should have been available to him at the next level. His father thought that in the end, Ren had nothing to do in this small village. One day he would go to the capital and become a famous knight. Myral also admired the boy's abilities. She wondered what skills he possessed. The man said that if only he had the money, they could do a skills assessment at one of the churches in town. Ren doesn't think it's necessary to do an assessment. It's not fatal if they don't recognize the name of his skills. The parents were surprised by this reaction. They thought he would be dying to know it. He realized that summoning a magic sword was such a rare skill that even he had never heard of, so it would be troublesome if they found out. The boy replied that he just wanted to keep doing what he was doing. After all, he was home. If it comes to that, Ren wants to leave this village as quietly as possible and live in peace. The child said that he would rather follow in his father's footsteps in this village than become a famous knight. If they hunt demons together, they can make more money. That would make their village richer, and in case of trouble, he can help his father. The last 7 years had definitely been happier than his entire previous life, and it's all because of them. He's not the same man he used to be. He's Ren, and he has a completely different heart. He just wants the three of them to continue living like this for as long as possible. That's all he wants. His parents enclose him in their warm embrace. This place is, if I may say so, a second home world for him. And this time, he wants to spend as much time with his family as possible to care for their happiness and avoid a doomed future. He is not the same Ren he was in the game, and he will live a different life. However, this was not destined to come true, for in just a few years, he would meet the girl he was supposed to kill in the future, a girl he was not supposed to meet. And the protagonist never expected that he would have to confront a changing future, a girl he wasn't supposed to date. He didn't know then what he knows now. Territory of the Empire of Lemel, the northern city of Kruzul. The knight inquired about the young lady's life. She was bored after her training. The old man saw that from the looks of his subordinates, he was no longer able to provide her with suitable sparring partners. The girl wondered where Weiss was going in his armor. Maybe something had happened on the grounds. He is going to patrol the northwest on the master's orders. The girl saw that this was indeed very serious, since a knight like him was called. It turned out that his mission was to capture a demon. A certain unpleasant type appeared. Ren recalled that it had been 3 years since the first level up. After reaching the second level in the art of summoning a magic sword, he could see what kind of bonus he would receive when he reached the next, third level. The skill level to gain a new level has suddenly increased. The growth tended to stagnate. 659 in 3 years. 1,500 is still so far away. There was nothing he could do about the fact that he didn't get to train every day. There were many days when he couldn't practice with the sword because he was helping with farm work and preparing for winter. In a short training session, the skill level only goes up by 1. Even so, for a peaceful life in this village, his current level of strength would suffice. Grandma Rig told the boy that yesterday his father was talking about how proud he was of him. Said that one day his boy would be an outstanding knight of the empire. Ren is pleased to hear such words, but he has no intention of leaving the village. The old woman noticed the Baron's messengers and told him to hurry back to the fortress. Weiss apologized for the sudden visit. They were met by the boy's father. He wanted to know why they had come to his, or rather their village. It seemed somehow too much to the boy. Speaking of the Baron, after all, it is not he who rules the territory, but the feudal lord. Knights are bound to have a noble boss called a master. His father is also a knight entrusted by the master to guard this village. But this is the first time he has seen a knight in armor. Something must have happened. The man has learned from the message that this area is threatened by a demon. Weiss said that some villages had already been attacked. There were casualties. According to eyewitnesses, it was a beast-like demon, fast as the wind. They are scouring the area with the intention of suppressing it. They, so far, have been unable to get on its trail. They need them to be on guard for a while. Ren was surprised that he was so strong that a strike force had been organized to suppress him. The boy's father inquired about the old man's assumption of his rank. Weiss assumed that at the very least, they were preparing to meet a D rank, which worried him. A demon's rank depends on its threat level. It is set by a worldwide neutral organization, the Guild. S rank is the highest, G rank is the lowest. As for D rank, it is the same rank as the early bosses within the game. 5 knights would definitely not be able to match such power. The man wondered, where did such a strong demon come from here? Normally, these surroundings were inhabited by F-rank demons at most. They are trying to figure it out themselves. As a precaution, knights should also be sent to the neighboring villages. Since the dispatch area is wide this time, it will take the knights a full 20 days to arrive. The old man explained that they were hurrying as fast as they could. He asked to wait out this mishap sometime. Then the boy's father decided that they should cautiously explore the forest. Ren pondered what kind of demon it was. In this case, knowing the game, he should be able to figure it out. Ren's father decided that the knights should get some rest. Weiss decided to trust them for this hour. The old man saw the boy standing next to Mr. Roy and thought he was his son. The man replied that he was indeed his son. He motioned for Ren to say hello to the commander-in-chief. The boy realized that the man with the highest rank in this county stood before him. The village provided the knights with a good rest. Afterward they set out again. They remembered the boy. He was 10 years old, and the same age as the young lady. Weiss saw that moreover, from the looks of it, he had a skill. If it wasn't for the current situation, he would have wanted to personally see how well he wielded a sword. As long as this situation was not settled, they hoped he would be fine. Roy was glad that he would have something to do from this day forward. The boy wanted to look at the list of wanted demons. Father thought it was best for him not to worry about it. As for the D-rank demons, there were instances where he handled them alone. What he heard surprised Ren. It turned out that it was even before the boy was born. He knew his father was strong, but the fact that he was stronger than the 5 knights combined, it was understandable why he was not comparable to him. Because he lacks the skill. Today, my father packed full nets with animals again. Roy decided that for a while he would hunt more than usual. The meat of the undersized boars from this area is very tasty. Sometimes other demons come to eat them. Ren concluded that he needed to reduce the number of boars that were easy to catch in order to keep the regular demons at bay. Father agreed with this. Then we should investigate the feces and tracks, the trails they walk on, and we can calm down a bit. It remains to be seen if he will show up in front of their house in the woods. Also, my father usually hunts before noon. But after he has been warned by a troop of knights, he goes hunting a second time after noon, and continues to hunt until sunset. It seems to the boy that he has been overdoing it too much lately. He wanted rather to help him with the hunt. The man allows it when things with the demon settle down. That's it for now. He couldn't keep up with his training. Ren realized that there was nothing he could do about it. Right now, he and his mom are mostly dealing with boars. He doesn't have time for a sword. Can't let the meat spoil. Roy was grateful that his son was helping his mom. It would be nice if everything stayed in order. Those 10 years of peaceful living. He doesn't want to lose them. Ren asked his father not to sleep in the bathroom. Anyway, the days go in that order all this time. And on the 10th night, the boy was worried about his father, who didn't come back again. It's too late. His mother saw fit to go look for him. In that case, he decided to go too. But she was going alone. It was already dark and dangerous outside. The boy thought it was dangerous for her to go alone. He would go even if she tried to stop him. Sometimes the woman is afraid that he might seriously hurt himself. They set out to find him. You can't see anything in this darkness. Come to think of it, it was really the first time Ren had gone out at night since his rebirth, wasn't it? His mom reminded him to watch his step. She pointed to the light. That's the entrance to the forest. There are torches on the bridge. He should hear the sound of water. It is the river separating the forest and the village. He must try not to fall in. His head was getting used to it little by little. Mom said they could only go as far as the bridge. There might be demons farther. In the distance by a tree she spotted a silhouette. She recognized her husband. Both were glad to see him and that he was okay. Ren was embarrassed to see his father in such a place. His mother told the boy to stand there and went to him, but he followed her. When she got close to her husband, terror showed on her face. The man was seriously injured. The boy was terrified when he saw this. Ren realized that they were in a hopeless situation. Suddenly a wild boar pounced on them from the forest. It knocked the boy to the ground, and he could barely contain it with his sword. The mother tried to protect her son. The situation worsened when 2 more monsters approached. Ren suddenly felt like he could push it away. This is the effect of a small increase in physical ability. He managed to pull away from the monster. He also fought against other opponents. The boy chopped the neck of the boar with 1 blow. Showing skill, he prevented the monsters from approaching the family. Upon seeing this, the boar that remained intact, frightened, ran away. Ren was surprised that he could fight them. He had become so strong through training and skill. Grandma Rig finished with the healing treatments. Now they can be at ease. He's in an unpredictable state now, but at least things have calmed down. Myril was overjoyed at this news. She was grateful to the old lady for her help. And so was Ren. She couldn't have gotten her father back without his help. The boy realized that fortunately he was fine now. But it was impossible for his father to be beaten up like that by those weak monsters. He must have encountered a dangerous wanted monster. Is he still in the forest? But it will take more than 10 days for reinforcements to arrive. If this monster eventually comes to the village, will Mom and other villagers be attacked? There must be something he can do now. Ren found yesterday's little boar. That's good. It looks like it hasn't been nibbled by the other monsters yet. It wouldn't be good if they ended up with the same wanted monster coming to their scent. He should hurry up and bring them home. The creature sucked in the bracelet. Just as he thought, The mastery of the magic sword summoning technique and the magic wooden sword increased by 2. This must be from absorbing the magic power of the demonic stone inside the monster's body. The bracelet didn't absorb them when Ren was a child. It didn't seem to work unless he hunted himself. There's something he'd like to talk to his mom about. The boy decided that starting tomorrow, he would think about taking on his father's debt. The statement worried the woman. Ren knows that it will be dangerous. However, as long as he is born part of the Ashton family, as a father, it is his duty to protect this village. Mom didn't care how strong he became, he's still a child. Now that his father has been injured, the only one in the village who can fight monsters is him. The boy knows he is asking the impossible, but until reinforcements arrive, she's asked to let him protect everyone. That night, the mother seemed to give no sign that she was going to sleep. However, the next morning, as long as he returns before dusk, he is allowed to enter the forest. The mother has forbidden him to go deep into the woods. If the boy gets lost, he can use the stone tsurugi as a landmark. If one walks forward through the forest for an hour and a half, one can see a huge sharp rock shaped like a sword, hence the name. He had yet to try the properties of the magical wooden sword, small elemental magic. There was a strong boss in the game who can use elemental magic. Another small boar scared him. The boy tried magic on it. Branches of ivy growth wrapped around his body. Ren was surprised by the effect of his magic, but he can't bring himself to hurt him anymore. He'd rather end him in one blow. Besides, it requires some expenditure of magic. Elemental magic is really easy to use, using the approaching small boar as an opponent, using this chance to practice. On the first day, he managed to defeat 12 boars, and on the second day, he collected again 12 small boars. On the third day, he managed to increase their number. On the fourth, and on the fifth day of his forays into the forest, he again succeeded in increasing the number of boars caught, still without encountering the wanted monster when the seventh day had already arrived without any incident. Ren is about to unlock the magical iron sword. He is looking forward to it. The boy returned home and caught Grandma Rig saying that he was in a very bad condition. She promised to take care of him and asked him to wait outside. The child was disturbed by what he heard, and he immediately decided to ask his mother about what had happened to his father. The woman told him that his condition had worsened since dusk. They had spent tons of precious healing herbs, but he was barely hanging on for his life. Ren didn't understand why this was happening. Mom didn't know. However, supplies of medical herbs are running low. They should run out tonight. Her grandmother asked her to bring the box of formulas to her house. Her husband knows about it, she could ask him. Myra went to get them in a hurry. The boy, worried about his father, offered his help. Maybe there are some herbs growing not far from here. She regretfully explained that there were no more of them in the neighborhood. They used to grow at the foot of Tsurugi Rock, but they died out during the harsh winter several decades ago. Ren questioned the fact that they were extinct. Grandmother asked him to wait outside while she took care of a patient. Rondo grass. There can be no mistake. It is a healing item that he has often used in the past when he played this game. But is it really extinct? He won't believe it until he sees it with his own eyes. At night, the danger in the forest is several times higher. Even so, if he does nothing at all, his father will definitely die. There's no time to think. No way, Ren won't let that happen. Finally, he reached Tsurugi Rock. Just as he thought, there was nothing left at the foot of the mountain. What about the top? Using elemental magic, he should be able to climb. Climbing up there, the boy discovered Rondo grass. He concluded that it was not yet completely extinct. With this much, he was sure he would be able to save his father. Among the grass, Ren noticed some bones. They are the bones of those little boars, but what are they doing on top of the cliff? No, looking more closely, they're not just bones. There are also some ornaments. The boy has a bad feeling, so he decides to leave the place as soon as possible. From below he encountered small boars. With his sword he pushed them away without difficulty. The protagonist noticed that they seemed frightened of something, as if they were trying to run away. He felt someone's negative presence. Turning around, Ren saw the very same wanted monster. The creature was preparing to attack. It's a special D rank monster, the Wolf Chief. The Wolf Chief is a beast whose power is at the top of the D rank. By defeating it, you can obtain a rare item, a unique monster. It is a rare breed known for its identity. Ren tried to hide from it, but the monster was too fast for him. Moreover, it is not an ordinary beast. Its peculiarity lies in the ability to use wind magic. The wolf leader is able to utilize the power of wind by gathering it in his body to create invisible hands. Thus he can disarm the enemy. In addition, he can also use wind magic to attack. This is bad, for it is not a beast that a child should face. But there's no way he's going to let it escape. Ren needs to think about how he can defeat it. The attack power of his natural magic is still weak. There's no other option but to try to get close to his stomach. He imagined the outcome of the battle if he failed. Ren noticed the wound on the monster's leg and realized something. It was the wound his father had inflicted. Now it's clear how his father managed to escape. The reason why he still hasn't attacked the village must be due to this wound. Father has done his duty as a knight. The protagonist realized that now he should not die so easily. The monster used wind magic again. Ren tried to remain calm. We need to find a way to use natural magic. He must immobilize it, even if it's only for a moment. Ren, taking advantage of the moment, pounced on the immobilized monster. He had already swung his sword and struck it. It turned out that his wooden magic sword broke on contact with it. He tried to summon it anew, but the monster had already counterattacked. Trying again required too much mana. Maybe it was because Ren was trying to re-invoke the broken magic sword. The wolf chief opened its maw in front of him and grabbed him. He threw the boy toward the tree. The magic of nature created a barrier that the monster gradually began to break down. Ren felt that at this rate, he might pass out. Suddenly, he remembered the rondo grass. He decided not to use it because then his father wouldn't have enough. The boy almost forgot what purpose he was here for. He tried to think of what weapons he could use. Finally, his sword fully summoned. Ren chopped through the roots of the tree and burst out of there. The monster just had to stand still for a while. The branches wrapped around his body. Ren had no more mana left. He should hurry to the corpses of those little boars. All he needs are 3 more magic stones. If he absorbs their power, a magic sword made of metal will be available to him. If the magical wooden sword can't overpower him, then Ren can only rely on this. He hurled his sword. Magical natural sprouts coiled from the weapon, stopping the monster. Ren knew he had to find a way to save his father. He could not lose here. This is his, the last available power. The boy thrust his sword into the demon's mouth. He used it to pierce the monster's throat. It was an attack with all the heart. The protagonist was victorious in this hard battle. Ren obtained a magic sword made of metal. He absorbs the wolf chief's magic stone. It's bad. His body doesn't move at all. The child remembered his parents. The knights arrived at the place at the cry of the beast. They took the boy away with them. There was a knock at the house. The men announced that they were knights from Closel. There was no time to waste, so they apologized for their rudeness. They should hurry up and take this child to his room. The woman recognized her son. Concerned, she wanted to know what had happened. They replied that they had just arrived. However, he seemed to be desperately holding on. Perhaps there is something inside. The bag contained rondo grass. Myril realized that he had sacrificed himself to help his father. The woman clung to the boy. The knight informed Commander-in-Chief Weiss that Ren Ashton had single-handedly defeated Wolf Rain. The girl overheard their conversation. She was interested in a boy who could single-handedly defeat a D-rang monster here in these parts. 2 months later, Ren has obtained a bandit magic sword. However, it looks more like a finger armor than a sword. Who would have thought that just by defeating the wolf chief, he would get his hands on a new type of magic sword? The child went to the top of the cliff again. One of the knights noticed it. He was concerned that the boy was still not in the best condition. Didn't they ask him to call out to them when he was about to go into the forest? Ren apologized, but really, he had only managed to stay alive because they had arrived faster than expected. He was grateful to them for that. Hearing this from him, the knight realizes that the rush was worth it. However, Ren had seriously surprised them with his physical resilience. He had a guess about that backpack. The boy said that it was the treasures hidden by the wolf chief. He wants to sell them and use the money to help the village, but he doubted whether it would be alright because of the taxes. Knight reported that the reward for this year is tax exemption. The wolf chief's raw material that Mr. Ren wants to sell is incredibly valuable medicinal material, and the lord is buying it at a higher price than the market. The village will have the opportunity to prosper for the next few decades. Ren is overjoyed by this news. His father had already heard about the treasure and recognized that the boy had accomplished much. Ren believed that it wasn't just him. He was only able to defeat that beast because of him. The father laughed at his son being so selfless as always. The man asked if there was something he wanted. Ren asked to give him this beautiful stone. If he's not mistaken, it's a Salacia pearl. Even among all the rare items that the wolf chief had dropped, it was still considered extremely rare. And there was something he was curious to know. He also asked for permission to take this bracelet as well. After his father's permission, Ren was glad that he could now openly wear the bracelet. His father felt that he had indeed acted recklessly. As a parent, the boy made him worry, but he did a good job, putting his life on the line to save every single one of them. He is proud of his son. Thus, after a long period of time, There is finally peace in this nameless village. One day, Ren notices a girl who is definitely not a child from this village. She realized that he was Ren Ashton. He felt as if he had seen her before. That's right, that fateful meeting. And also, the beginning of a new story. A stranger confessed that she had always wanted to meet him. She took out 2 swords and asked about his wounds. Ren replied that they were healed, but what interested him most was how she knew his name. In that case, the girl offered to start. She decided to attack first. Ren did not expect such a turn and fought off the attacks in every way possible. The girl was convinced that he was an excellent swordsman, even though he was lagging behind. The boy wanted to know why she suddenly started this. He noticed that this girl was quite experienced. She reassured him that the blade was blunt, but that wasn't the problem. He assumed that she was planning to put up this fight. That's a problem for sure. Nothing could be done about it, until one of them got hurt. Ren was going to get it over with. He plopped the girl on the ground and told her he'd won. She hesitantly mumbled something. She said, "He's too close." The stranger was going to fight again, which surprised him. She hadn't admitted defeat yet. Ren didn't realize what was going on. Weiss told the princess that that was enough. The boy wondered why he was here. The princess decided to explain herself. As her father's representative, she arrived with a letter for the Ashton family. Due to her victory over the Wolf Chief, her father was very complimentary about the Ashton family and also expressed his high expectations about Ren Ashton's future. He could not believe it. Her name is Lucia Colossal. She is a white saint. The protagonist immediately realized what this meant. The knights were concerned that the princess had traveled alone without their knowledge. Lucia felt that the boys had been resting for too long. Ren realized that she was the girl he must kill in the world of the Legend of the Seven Heroes. So why is she here? The princess, along with her attendants, spent time at the Ashton family home. All this time, Ren didn't understand anything at all. Lucia Colossal, Saint of the Whites. In the Legend of the Seven Heroes, she has yet to join the protagonist's team. In the event battles, her power is very significant, and she can't match the protagonist until he levels up. She is also considered a very popular character due to her expected looks and personality. But it is well known to everyone that she cannot play the role of the protagonist's love interest. She is called the invincible heroine. The princess suddenly inquired if Ren was planning to pay them a visit. She knows that she personally came here to see the abilities of the one who defeated the Wolf Chief, but their little sparring convinced her of something. Not only is he strong, but he's also brave. Despite the unexpectedness of their sparring, his decision to raise his sword without a single doubt is proof of that. Ren heard from the guard that this village is located on the border of Colossal, but it seems that it would take more than 10 days of riding a horse to reach that town. He thought that as long as he stayed in this backwoods village, he would never match her, the feudal lord's daughter, and to think that she had traveled all the way here of her own volition, just to meet and fight him. The princess noticed the oddities in his behavior. Ren thinks they overestimate him. His father managed to wound the Wolf Chief. He didn't win the victory just because of his abilities. Also, earlier during their sparring, he didn't even know the correct technique, so he doesn't think he possesses the courage she is talking about. Lucia asked not to be modest. Anyone else in his place would brag about defeating such a monster. He is different from the nobles who only know how to talk. That's why she wants Ren to go with her to Colossal no matter what. That way, they can spar whenever they want. The boy realized that from the looks of it, she just loves sword fighting. Judging from their sparring earlier, he could tell that she had worked quite hard, but he would prefer to keep as much distance as possible. Ren replied that he was sorry to upset her, but he had no intention of leaving this village. Lucia concluded that all this time he had been trying to keep his distance from her. She assumed that she did not like him. Ren explained that he did not. If he left, his father would be the only person in the village who could feed everyone and handle other things. If another monster like the Wolf Chief appears, the village will definitely be destroyed. Besides, he likes the life in the village. He had never even considered living in the city. The princess wasn't going to give up. They had dinner together. When Ren spent time with the horses after the meal, Lucia decided to practice. She had gotten permission from Weiss and his parents, so he might not worry. Ren was surprised that she managed to convince even Weiss-sama. The thought came to the boy that he could just not raise the sword. The princess said that if he didn't pick up his sword, she would stay here longer. Ren hesitantly said he was just in the mood to practice. Lucia wondered why he would go so far as to refuse her. He must have his reasons, after all. Then, if she prevails, he will tell her about them. Also, he would go with her to Colossal. Ren asked what would happen if he prevailed. In that case, the princess would return to this village again. The boy realized that this way he would lose at any outcome. She attacked first. Ren was able to block her attack, which surprised the girl. He had let his guard down after all. He replied that even saying that, why was she so fixated on defeating him? It seemed obvious to the princess. She hates to lose. Even as a white saint, she doesn't want to lose to a guy her age. Ren doesn't understand what her status as a white saint has to do with it. Lucia revealed that her skill, Saint of the Whites, is blessed with skillful swordsmanship and physical abilities. Not to mention that she is able to use divine magic, so her losing. Terribly disappointing. She's going to be serious from now on. She will absolutely be able to defeat him. Ren noticed that the princess had become much faster and stronger, as if she was a completely different person. It must be divine magic. If he remembered correctly, divine magic combined the power of white magic that could heal wounds with the power of holy magic that can counteract undead, curses, and poisons. It is a powerful magic that can even enhance team members. Simply put, divine magic, sword wielding, enhanced physical abilities, it's all the skill of a white saint. She is quite powerful when she is in that state. He asked if she couldn't use it before. Lucia knows this, but Weiss will scold her if she uses this power without permission. Ren felt like he was spoiling her too much. In that case, it's time to fight seriously too. Ren showed his abilities at a higher level. He had already adapted to her movements. She is strong, but when compared to that time, he put his sword to her. The girl, increasingly fueled by anger, dodged. With one sweep of his arm he felled her to the ground. Lucia had not expected such a turn. Ren declared that victory was his, but there was no way the princess was going to give up. She hadn't lost yet. Weiss clapped his hands and praised Ren. He has simply incredible skill, and even at such a young age, to defeat the young lady and her divine magic. No wonder he was capable of defeating the wolf chief alone. In addition to Lord Roy's training, he must have put in a lot of effort to become so strong. Lucia had now personally experienced the full strength of this young man. It will be great if, thanks to this, she feels even more motivated when she returns to the residence. The princess apologized for suddenly bothering him today, but it was a great experience. It was also a great experience for Ren. Lucia decided to leave first and rest. Weiss apologized to the boy for that. He hopes Ren will forgive her. He would be sure to tell the Baron that the Ashton family had given them a warm hospitality. The child didn't think he had done much. Weiss spoke to the contrary. Lately his subordinates, not to mention those of the same age as her, can't handle the young lady at all. She has become complacent. That should serve her well. If it was possible, he would rather stay here for a couple more days and let the two of them train further. Ren didn't want that with all his heart. However, they are due to depart as early as tomorrow morning. The young lady had personally made arrangements with her father, and finally came to this village to run some errands. She visits villages in the county on behalf of the Baron. She is assigned to clean up the mess caused by a recent accident. Ren thought that was amazing, to be able to play the role of deputy feudal lord at her age. As he thought, she wasn't just some arrogant girl. She excelled in both the military and verbal arts. In the Legend of the Seven Heroes, she also boasts the highest grades in the academy. She is a bit overbearing and hard to understand, but perhaps deep down inside she is straightforward and a good person. But still, why did it end this way? Again, their childhood was not talked about much in the game. Still, he didn't expect to meet her at such an early stage. Lucia couldn't sleep at all. He couldn't give up so easily. Weiss discovered her letter to that boy. She thinks of giving it to him before they leave. She is also writing a letter of thanks for the Ashton family. Lucia thought that her desire to invite him to Colossal would be better expressed on paper. She inquired about his opinion. After reading the letter, Weiss said it looked like a love letter. The princess was surprised. He decided to read some evidence in favor of it. The passion she felt for him now surpassed what she had felt even before they met. Lucia thought she put meaning into every word. She means that the unique rumor boy turned out to be even more amazing when they met him in person. Weiss understands everything, but he thinks it's more like a letter from a desperately in love damsel. There's more here. She says his valor, bravery, and gallantry have resonated with her and urges her not to give up. The princess said it is true. If he shows his superior swordsmanship, everyone will want to practice sparring with him again and again. Weiss admitted that it still sounded like a country girl just seeing a hero. Upon rereading the letter, she agreed with him. It sounds like a love letter. Lucia is used to writing administrative letters. Is it because this is her first personal letter? In that case, the princess decided to get rid of it when they left the village, and so, ending their first meeting by showing a vivid confrontation. She obediently left the village. However, in a sudden gust of wind, she lost the letter she had intended to throw away. But at that moment, she had not yet realized it. Ren remembered that he hadn't tested the bandit magic sword yet. Here he could practice a bit, so he was able to steal the feather from the bird. They dropped the letter he caught. Upon reading it, Ren thought it was a love letter. Ren froze while reading the love letter. From the contents, he realized that someone was inviting him to Colossal. Isn't this a high-quality sheet of parchment? If you read carefully, the author mentions someone's swordsmanship. Perhaps this is a letter she wrote to him. But why is it here? In the distance, he noticed knights approaching who were not from Weiss-sama's squad. This crest, it is different from Colossal's coat of arms, so they are knights from other domains. The knights stopped beside him. One of them asked if he was one of the villagers ruled by the Ashton family. The boy confirmed that he was, but he was most interested in who they were. They have a message approved by Viscount Gibbons, and they have come to deliver it. Therefore, they asked him to guide them to the Ashton family's estate. If Ren remembers correctly, north of here, there is an estate owned by aristocrats who are not related to the Ashton family in any way. That means they are above the Baron's position. He can't ignore them. And right after Lucia left, he wondered what this time. After arriving at the Ashton family home, Knight explained the situation to his parents. He did not expect the boy to turn out to be Ren Ashton. He could rejoice, for there was a message for him too from the Viscount. The Viscount praised his abilities. He would like to employ him at his residence. The Knight of Weiss informed him that their lord was the first to invite Sir Ren. The Viscount's subordinate realized that he was from the Colossal family. However, a mere invitation doesn't mean that Ren has already given his answer. If that is the case, he sees no problem in trying to recruit him. The knight replied that a problem exists despite this evidence. This village is in the possession of the Colossal family. If he decided to talk to Sir Ren, he should talk to them first, regardless of their difference in status or faction. Aren't these the usual rules of propriety? He was sure that any servant of the Honorable Viscount Gibbons would understand that. To this the knight said that they would correct their mistakes. They will come again. Roy realized what the reason was that, after giving every possible reason, they talked of including these lands in Viscount Gibbons' domain. In other words, the waves of factional conflict had already advanced this far. The news worried Ren. The knight admitted that it was true. The Liamal Empire is divided into 3 factions, with all the aristocrats belonging to one of them. The first is the Imperial faction, which expresses deep reverence for the nation's founder, King Leon, and believes that only the Imperial family can rule the country. The second is the Heroes faction, made up of those who created the heroes who once defeated the Demon King. Ruled by the 7 major noble houses, it is considered the protagonist faction from the legend of the 7 heroes. Even Viscount Gibbons belongs to the Hero faction. Many believe that the power of the Imperial faction should be limited to make the Liamal Empire more free and democratic, and to eliminate social inequality. Finally, the Neutrality faction. Pacifists who dislike conflict and respect both major factions are mostly members of this group. Baron Colossal also belongs to the Neutral faction. The boy asked, is transferring a village into the possession of another nobleman something that can be accomplished so easily? The knight explained that it was a rare occurrence in border villages, but if everyone involved agreed, it would be possible. Roy didn't see the point of taking a small village like theirs. Knight isn't sure, but suspects that there may be some underlying strategy involved. They may have ulterior motives. Many hope to draw the Colossal family to their side. The Baron is a superb aristocrat, and yes, the presence of St. White also plays a significant role. Ren really doesn't want to get involved in this power struggle full of conspiracies. But just as the Ashton family serves the Colossal family, they too are not completely left out. In fact, there is also the possibility that they have already been involved in something unimaginable. He doesn't know Viscount Gibbons' intentions, but caution wouldn't hurt. Ren turns to his father. It says here that they want to annex the village as well as the station knights to make up for the lack of military might. He asked whether this lack of military power was related to the Wolf Chief incident. The man replied that it most likely was, but that incident was so unusual that it could even be called an anomaly. Other than that incident, there was no mention of the Ashton family's lack of military might. Previously, Ren had heard from Weiss-sama that if damage was done within a territory by monsters, the feudal lord of those domains could be punished for resending incapacitated troops. The knight affirmed that, after all, defending a territory is a responsibility that rests on the feudal lord. Ren wondered, following that logic, if this area and the neighboring villages suffered significant damage, was there a possibility that the Colossal family would be punished? Perhaps that is what Viscount Gibbons is aiming at. As Roy realizes, what the boy means to say is that he is trying to frame Baron Colossal by taking advantage of the recent mess. He gave the example that the Viscount could pretend to defend an impeached Baron, and then poach him into the Hero faction. Not only that, but if he had planned it from the beginning, and facilitated it for a while, then worst case scenario, The Wolf Chief incident could also have been linked to Viscount Gibbons. Father thinks this has gone too far. It's too much that Viscount Gibbons deliberately released the monster. Maybe Ren suspects too much. He doesn't have any proof. However, if he does, then everything that has happened will make sense. Roy realizes this, but if it turns out to be true, it will lead to a big scandal. Knight is surprised that he came to this conclusion so quickly. Truth be told, the Baron was also worried that such a thing could happen. Ren is indeed brilliant. The boy replied that it was all just his guesses. At this moment, there wasn't much they could do, so they shouldn't let their guard down so as to be able to prevent any unforeseen situations. Roy agreed with him. He can't lie here forever. Myril asked not to bother. The knight said that they should also immediately inform the Baron and encourage him to remain vigilant. Nevertheless, Ren's position might have changed, but to think that he would have a chance to confront the same faction of heroes who were his allies in the Legend of the Seven Heroes. He has no idea what might happen. And so, time gradually passed. The seasons changed from fall to winter. Today they had another successful hunt. With the help of the knights, their village was able to fully prepare for winter. Nevertheless, Ren's talent never ceases to amaze the knight. If he went to the imperial capital, he would certainly achieve great success. Ren had no intention of leaving this village. He is the heir of the Ashton family. The older knight asked him to stop pestering the boy. Ren returned home where he was welcomed. Lucia informed him that if he was looking for Madame, she was now with Rig Dono. The boy was shocked to see her. The princess asked him not to shout so sharply. He only wanted to know what she was doing here. The girl thought that there could only be one reason why she might be here. Since he wasn't coming to Clausel, Clausel was coming to him. Ren saw a shower in his house for the first time. In gratitude for their friendly sparring, Lucia brought one of her magic tools. It's a crystal sphere that creates water. Thanks to her, one would no longer have to go far to the river or well. Ren thought that these magic tools were powered by magic stones after all. He recognized that it was indeed convenient, but weren't they expensive? She explained that this one was old and didn't work, but she fixed it with her pocket money. Also, Lucia asked to accept it as an apology for the incident with Viscount Gibbons. Father wanted to object then, but dealing with high-ranking aristocrats is very tortuous. Even she, the White Saint, doesn't have enough influence to bypass the ranks and factions. The so-called saint blessed by the supreme deity Elfin has been born once and twice in the history of mankind. But unlike the seven heroes, they have neither managed to defeat the demon lord nor achieved anything meaningful. Ren was surprised that even universal respect did not put them on par with King Leon or the seven heroes. And since he was back, she asked him to take her to his father's room. The princess healed him. This is sacred magic. Roy thanked Lucia for it. Ren assumed that she was the one who healed him last time. The girl was surprised that he didn't know. The boy really didn't know that. As she sparred, her movements became more precise. In such a short time she had honed her skill. Lucia stumbled, but he managed to keep her from falling. The princess said he was kidding. He gallops like that, and he's not the least bit exhausted. But she has a lot of fun when she spars with him. Lucia has offered to fight again in the morning. This time the victory will be hers. She stayed with them for a few days and they had a few more sparring sessions. The girl knew they would see each other. After that, Lucia left. Ren realized that she was really going to come back. But they shouldn't get too close. Winter came to an end, and the following happened. On the 11th spring of his stay in this world, his father believed that he had made a final recovery through their care. They discovered that the Viscount Knights were here again. The knight was waiting for Sir Ashton. This time, as expected, he asked to join them. The Viscount is still counting on his abilities. Moreover, he has pleasant news for his son. Ren has a bad feeling. According to the knight, the Viscount proposed to support Ren Ashton's entry into a special class of the privileged Imperial Cadet Corps. Roy was confused by this, as the admission itself is complicated, and he says that Ren will be in a special class. The knight understands his astonishment. The special class of the Imperial Corps is truly outstanding. It only accepts the heirs of the 7 great nobles and heroes, the general's successors, and some talented boys that have been raised in the imperial capital since childhood. But the Viscount holds the position of Deputy Minister of Justice at court. Sending a letter of recommendation was not difficult for him. He asked if the boy also wanted to show his talent at court. Ren declined. The knight did not expect to hear such a reply. Ren doesn't want to leave the village, and he didn't understand why. Doesn't he want to become a nobleman? He will even be given a noble title upon graduation. The boy doesn't want to leave at all. The Imperial Cadet Corps is the main setting of the Legend of the Seven Heroes. The protagonists just belong to a special class. He would not be exaggerating at all if he said that joining it would reduce his future to the plot of the game. Ren apologized, but he sees his calling as helping out with chores here in the village. The knight indignantly inquired about the opinion of his father, who probably doesn't want his son to get the title. Of course, Roy thinks it would be glorious to send his son to the imperial capital to learn and see the world. But in the end that decision is left to Ren. Besides, he is honored to serve the colossal family as his ancestors have for generations. He will write a letter back to the Viscount, which he has asked to be given to him. The knight grudgingly said that they would deliver his reply to the Viscount themselves. This greatly disappointed him. Viscount Gibbons's messenger went home, and after a few days, already under very different circumstances, she appeared a third time. Weiss explained that the young lady had fallen ill about 3 days ago. They were on their way to another village. This is not a simple disease. It only affects children with high levels of magical power. It is impossible to contract, and once cured, a sort of immunity is formed. Still, the suddenness of the attack and the lack of symptoms are troublesome. If the patient lies in fever and her immune system is weakened, there is a risk of fatal complications. She should rest for 2 to 3 weeks. In that case, Ren asked not to worry. They could wait until Lucia's full recovery. Her condition finally stabilized after 3 days. Ren entered the princess's chambers. He found her cheeks still burning. Lucia apologized. She had come to the village unauthorized and had fallen ill as soon as she arrived. On top of that, he had to look after her. Ren didn't consider it her fault. It didn't cost him anything, so he asked her not to be upset. The girl said it was wrong. This journey was to show their determination in front of Viscount Gibbons, just so they planned to visit more villages than usual. Even if her influence is limited, as a saint, she wanted to show how tightly the Colossals are united under her. Still, she was so very angry with herself. Ren was surprised that at that age, Lucia was already thinking about her position and responsibility. It was frustrating for the princess that in the end, she couldn't do anything. She was never able to defeat him once. She is just a petty and annoying brat. It turns out she's only defaming her late mother's name. This is the first time Ren has heard of her. Her mom was so happy when she found out she was a white saint. She always said that Lucia had a great future ahead of her, even on the day she died of illness. The princess had only seen her in portraits and never heard her voice. But every time she put on that costume and fought, she felt her mother's support. They say she wore this costume when she was a child herself. Ren realized that it was a memorial gift. He didn't know that either. Lucia wanted to live up to other people's expectations, but it was all in vain. This visit would be her last. She had heard that he had refused to join the Imperial Cadet Corps at the invitation of Viscount Gibbons. He and his father have proved their loyalty to the Colossal family many times over. Lucia cannot continue to behave like a spoiled child. She's already talked to Weiss about it. She's really sorry. She's caused their family so much trouble. The princess is truly grateful to them for all they have done for her. Just as Ren thought, this girl is incredibly pure of heart. Perhaps the only one with something to hide is him. He decided that this was really the end. The two boys were silent for a while. Lucia remembered that she had to write a letter to her father. She asked to borrow some ink later. She ran out of it on the way here. Ren said that the stationery is inside a box on his desk. She could feel free to use it. In fact, this is his room. It just so happened that he was cleaning the guest room when she arrived. It seemed to her that she was bringing him nothing but trouble. Ren himself didn't think so. He asked her to bring a fire magic item the next time he came. Even a spare one would do. The girl asked what he meant. Ren thought it would be handy to have a fire-making tool. Lucia reminded him that this was the last time. Ren meant her next visit, but she had already said she wouldn't come here again because she kept bringing him trouble. Besides, he was avoiding her in their sparring after all. Ren decided to try to explain it. If someone suddenly offers to spar, everyone would be confused. If, from now on, she would warn him, then everything would be fine. He can fight her as long as he wants as long as they are within the village. He wouldn't want her condition to worsen, so he'll go. Ren offered to talk again when she was feeling better. As he left the room, the boy was ashamed of himself for speaking at all. The princess decided that since he was telling the truth, she could come back here again. Her head hardly hurt anymore. She must write a letter to her father while she still has strength. The girl hopes he won't mind if she uses his desk. Lucia opens the box and discovers a leaf inside it. It turned out to be her letter, the very love letter that Weiss had called it. The girl didn't understand why it was in his room. She thought she had lost it. Where did he even find it? And that was not the point. He had absolutely read her letter. Lucia tried to convince herself that it wasn't a love letter. She was just trying too hard while she was writing it. It's not that she has feelings for him or anything. He's just strong and has a really nice personality, that's all. The princess was surprised by the fact that Ren kept it like it was something valuable. He should have just thrown it away. Wouldn't he wish she didn't have feelings for him? She was worried about what he was thinking after he read her letter. The next day, at the young lady's request, Weiss and the others decided to help with hunting and carpentry. The boy's father decides to go into the woods with Weiss and his group. He needs Ren to help the others with house repairs. The mother was going to go to Grandma Riggs' house to get medicine. The princess was watching them from the window. With the young lady's slow recovery, everyone was sure she only needed a week to recover. If everything went according to plan, they would be able to head back to Colossal. And as soon as they thought of that, it started to rain and the fog had also descended. They decided to take a little break. At one point, Ren smelled the smell of burning. It smelled just like a field after an oncoming fall. The knight couldn't understand because of the smell of wet vegetation. Ren realized that the smell was coming from the direction of their house and rushed towards it. The house was indeed on fire. The boy discovered the corpse of a knight. His neck had been bitten off. Perhaps it was the work of the monster's paws. Ren went inside as the young lady is still in the room. All the knights who remained as guards are killed. Did they foresee this? They took advantage of the slight hiccup. The cloaked man behind it all was in the same room as Lucia. Here was a mana eater, a huge D-rank monster. Ren rushed toward the young lady. The assassin realized that he was Ren Ashton. The boy ordered him to get away from her. Suddenly he felt his vision distorted. He could not gather his strength. Ren smelled the odor of incense. It was strong enough to put even a dragon to sleep for a few days. That's not good. The boy was gradually losing consciousness. Finally he woke up in the wagon. Ren saw a young lady also bound beside him. He was very worried about her and wanted to get some sign in return. Fortunately, Lucia was still breathing. The stranger was surprised that he was already awake. One more time then, 4 days of sleep should be enough. He advised to behave and the boy would not get hurt. Just let him hold out for a couple more days and don't even think of doing anything. Ren was concerned about how far they had been taken from the village. The wagon was going to a faraway land. The boy wanted to know the reason why he had kidnapped them. He must be a tamer of beasts, one who can summon and control monsters. He is strong enough to control 2D rank monsters. He's not someone Ren can recklessly engage in battle with. But the biggest problem at the moment is that the girl's condition is getting worse. Just a little more and her life will be in danger. He can't let her die here. Ren will definitely save her. He had a dream. Ren Ashton's dream. Because he didn't have the courage to go for herbs, he lost his father when he fought the wolf chief. And when the village lost his father, it was attacked and many people died. Ren asked his mom for forgiveness. He promised that he would protect her. And in a desperate situation, she, the girl who saves the village, appears. She was like a saint. This is most likely Ren's past in the legend of the 7 heroes. Maybe they really were destined to meet like this. He doesn't understand why he would have such a dream. At least it wasn't as if the two of them had an adversarial relationship. If so, why would he kill her and was there any particular reason? The wagon came to an abrupt stop. The kidnapper threw them meager food and water for him and the young lady. Ren then offered to at least remove the chains from his hands. The stranger thought he would deal with it anyway. He has already been giving them potions and herbs for the past few days. He has no intention of indulging any further. He said in advance, yelling and calling for help is useless. The sounds coming from inside can only be heard by him thanks to the magic device. The boy can sleep soundly. Using his teeth, Ren tried to give the girl a drink of water. He saw that she was at her limit and urgent action was needed. This man's plans cannot be allowed to come to pass. The boy summoned a magic sword made of metal. He was surprised that the chains yielded so easily. The sword was incredibly sharp. With it, Ren used it to open the back door of the wagon. Unfortunately, the dragon saw it. He pinned Lucia down, got out of the wagon, and chopped her in two. The wagon shattered into splinters. Ren hurled his sword toward the kidnapper. The enemy was surprised by the sudden appearance of the weapon at his side. The next step was to summon a magical sword from the wood. The forces of nature's magic enveloped the body of the captor. He had no intention of letting Ren go. With a bandit magic sword, he left his opponent without his cane. The opponent was disarmed and actually lost. But one of the dragons wasn't going to leave them. It opened its maw before them. It seemed that this could have been the decisive moment in the battle. But Ren didn't let him kill them. The protagonist was going to hide with the girl in the forest. The kidnapper still couldn't let them go. He turned to the forest creatures. The forest dwellers immediately responded to the call. Ren realized that he was gathering demons from all over the forest. A beast tamer should only be able to command creatures weaker than him. But what is this? The boy summoned a magical sword made of metal. With it, he slew all the attacking monsters. The boys were already a fair distance away from the kidnapper, but Ren still had to fight off the enemies. In addition, the dragons were spewing their flames. The chase continued. the northern town of Colossal. Lucia's father, Lizard Colossal, was shocked to learn that his daughter had been kidnapped. Weiss bitterly recognized that such a mistake was inexcusable. Leaving his daughter behind was a wrong decision on his part. For all the fallen bodyguards, the punishment would be his. However, the knight asked him until then to give him time to save his daughter. Lizard does not doubt his loyalty, and he left Lucia on her orders, didn't he? He cannot blame her for that. But no longer can they sit still. They need to contact the capital. Not only the nobles from the same faction, but also His Majesty the Emperor must be informed of the recent events. The Lord was urgently informed of the arrival of guests from the capital. They arrived by order of His Excellency the Minister of Justice. Lizard is suspected of abuse of power due to the increasing demon attacks on Viscount Gibbon's neighboring lands. The boys finally broke away from the chase, and there was a lull for a while. Ren got some medicinal herbs for Lucia. It is very bitter, but it has an antipyretic effect. He also gave her water to wash it down. The boys were walking down an unknown path. The fever finally passed. The princess inquired where he got the herb. Ren said that 3 days ago he had passed by a village where he had been given some materials in exchange for a demon he had hunted in the forest, as well as some traveling equipment. The girl was grateful to him, but he told her not to worry about it. She knew they were on the border of Viscount Gibbon's territories. Lucia pointed to the Baldur Mountains. From this she could get a rough idea of where they were. She thinks she can further guide them. This was the first time Ren had seen the Baldur Mountains. He remembered that this was the location of the battle with the final boss of the Legend of the Seven Heroes. The boy asked how many days it would take to get from here to Colossal. Lucia thinks 4 days, but the princess thought he should first make sure his family was safe. Ren is confident that they will be alright. They were not at home that day. They must have evacuated somewhere by now. He felt that there was no need to worry. Besides, it was a good opportunity to visit Colossal. There they would say hello to the Baron, he would walk around the sights, and then return home afterward. The girl thanked him once more. The rain came, and they decided to wait it out in the shelter. Lucia asked how he managed to catch such a monster. Ren tied it with a vine while it was sitting in a tree and dropped it. She decided that was the power of that mysterious sword. The boy replied that the true nature of its power was a mystery, which upset her. From her bag she retrieved a magical tool, but it was broken. Ren took it from the beast tamer when he was running away. It turned out to be the magic tool. When they were locked in the wagon, he said he was using some kind of magical device that doesn't let any sound through. This is probably what he was talking about. Perhaps it could be used as evidence in case of emergency. The boy hopes the meat is cooked through. He was embarrassed since it doesn't look very appetizing and there's no special seasoning, but Lucia tasted it anyway. Surprisingly, she liked the flavor, which he was happy about. The boys continued on their way. They stopped at a river to wash their clothes. Ren crouched down beside her to wipe her face. The princess remembered his offer to talk again when she felt better. Ren found that her face was still red. Had the fever not gone away? Lucia pulled away, saying she was fine. She still wanted to know what he thought when he read that letter. The princess still decided to ask the question. Lucia assumed that he was hiding something from her. Where did he get it from? Even put it in his chest and kept it safe and sound. Ren asked what she meant by it. Lucia wasn't going to repeat it. He knows what she's talking about, doesn't he? She found it in his room. Ren still doesn't understand. There didn't seem to be anything strange in his room. The boy remembered his mom asking him what he was doing with all those magic stones. Empty magic stones aren't worth a dime. After all, Ren explained that he wasn't collecting them. They just seemed rather pretty to him. Mom said it was in the blood. Father had been like that since he was a kid too. Even when they were together, all he did was talk about swords and magic stones all the time. She asked Ren not to become that kind of boy. He assumed that the princess was talking about magic stones. Yes, there were a lot of them in the room. It was probably really strange from the girl's point of view. Ren replied to her that they had interested him at first sight. This answer surprised the princess. She also had many consequential questions. Ren doesn't know what else to say. The girl thought it was unfair to say something like that out of the blue. He said it's strange to keep something like that just because you're interested in it, isn't it? Lucia didn't think it was strange at all. He can do whatever he wants. Ren assumed it was because they come from the bodies of monsters, but he really is interested in them. She asked to stop repeating herself. Lucia did not know what she should do in such a case. The princess unexpectedly asked him to call her by her first name. It couldn't be helped, so he could call her by her first name. He wondered what it meant after all. There were no herbs in the village, but food would help them a lot too. The woman asked where they were going now. Ren hasn't decided yet, since it's a trip with no definite purpose. She said that in that case, they should go to Colossal's restaurant, which is not far from here. The woman explained that an adventurer who had come here the other day said, that Baron Colossal would soon be punished, and so there should be some action there. The princess did not understand how such a thing could happen. Lucia asked if she knew what had really happened. The woman admitted that she didn't know much about it. Rumor has it that Baron Colossal has set monsters on Viscount Given's property. Lucia could not believe that her father could sick monsters on other people's territories. It was absolutely impossible. It's ridiculous, whichever way you look at it. Northern Town. Colossal, an aristocrat's carriage stopped in town. The Viscount's knight happily reported that once they gained control of this territory, the hero's power would surely expand. Viscount Given's facial expression was full of equanimity. To revitalize the decaying Liemel and finally revive it, they must destroy the Colossal family. So, referring to the arguments he has given, the Imperial Court, in the name of the great Imperial law, condemn him. The formal announcement is set for tomorrow morning, at the same time as the present session. From this, Lizard understood that during the course of today he would be transported to the capital, and there be punished. Weiss knew that he could at least appeal and then bring it with him to the capital court. The knight was about to offer another option, but the Baron thought it was no use. He said, "Look at that guy's face. He is definitely aiming to win the trial. Surely he will intervene before the trial. But here's the strange thing. He's a highly titled person, but his methods are too brutal." Lizard doubted that this was just a fight between factions. Ren was trying to think of a way to save everyone. If one sat idly by, Baron Colossal would be accused and lose his title. If Lady Lucia is to be believed, the higher factions won't be able to do anything to help the neutrality faction. Besides, what could he, a child, do? The girl found that he couldn't sleep. Ren just reflected on the fact that it was out of his power to do anything. The princess said that he could talk less formally. It's easier to communicate that way after all. And she would also address him by his first name. They leave at dawn. She can't sleep either. We must return to Colossal as soon as possible and tell the truth about the kidnapping. But who among them will even take their word for it? Ren felt it necessary to find proof that Viscount Givens and the kidnapping were connected. Lucia agreed with this. They don't have time, but they need to get something. The boys set off on their journey. They had to travel great distances to reach their goal. They will arrive soon. This place is away from the roads. It remains to cross the hill beyond this forest and they will come out to Colossal. Then they are already safe. Colossal's knights will surely be there. Someone came out of the forest to meet them. Viscount Given's messenger is glad they have found them. Baron Colossal had asked for help and they had been looking for them all this time. The two are wary. The knights surrounded them. First, he suggested getting out of here. The knights would take them to safety. Lucia decides to deal with things here. She feels that they are in danger in this situation and Ren is ready to meet her face to face. The knight inquired what they were talking about. The princess stated that whether or not they would let them take them to safety depended entirely on his answer to her question. The girl pulled out the very same magical artifact and asked if he recalled anything. The knight was surprised to see it, but replied that in no way did he, pretending as if he did not know what it was. Lucia noticed that his eyes sparkled for a second, and it's the magic tool they took from the robbers who kidnapped them. He didn't seem to be particularly interested. The Viscount's messenger replied that he was just thinking of keeping it as an important piece of evidence. The princess stated that she would ask the merchant faction to look into it. She wants to find out who sold the item, who previously owned it, and generally all the information. According to the knight, that's impossible. He asked how many total magic tools like this exist in the Liemel Empire do they think. The girl admitted that there are a lot, but this is without a doubt a very valuable item. Such things aren't sold to ordinary customers, so there will probably be those with leads. She knows the head of the faction, so it shouldn't be hard for her to get something out. Once she does, she'll know whether the brigands got the item themselves or whether it was handed to them, so to speak. In the latter case, however honorable a man may be, he will have to stand trial to discover the truth. Still, there is no denying the fact that this very thing handed to the robbers is intended to destroy them. The knights looked at each other awkwardly. He replied that then the thing was all the more extremely important, so he asked that it be placed at their disposal. Lucia informed them that they had no right to take it. They were now on her family's property. She has jurisdiction over what happened in his village. The knight tried to object. The princess decided that was enough. She doesn't need to be guarded by a knight who can't even make a reasonable argument. They have nothing more to talk about. The boys are about to leave. The knight declared that escorting them was a must. They saw no point in it, and the town was just a short walk away. He replied that they would both have to go with them. Ren summoned his magic sword. He used it to repel the knight's sword and thus disarmed him. The knight grabbed the boy's cloak and called him a lad. Lucia advised him to watch his tongue, thanks to him raising his hand against her. She would now succeed in getting Viscount Gibbons court-martialed on another case. She thanked the foolish knight. The princess confronted him with holy magic. The knights were about to stop them, but Ren summoned a magical wood sword and stopped them with nature magic. The boys were still able to break free. The commander-in-chief ordered to go after them. He will report to the Viscount. We must take them alive at all costs. The knights galloped as fast as they could. They tried not to let them out of their sight. Ren saw that they were not retreating. Lucia asked her horse to be even faster. They only needed to get over the hills, and there would be settlements farther on. At the top, the beast tamer was already waiting for them. He knew that this was where they would surely pass. The ground beneath their feet began to crumble. The tamer magic put them at a standstill. They would no longer be able to get out of here so easily. Lucia asked for the sword to be given to her as well. She had already used it to start a fire. The monsters were getting at the knights too. This angered them. After all, they were in league with them. But no one could help them. They annoyed the tamer of beasts. Even if he offers them to surrender, the children won't listen to him, will they? So he will have to use force. And if that doesn't work, then he has to kill them. Lucia broke down the wall of plants. It seemed to Ren that she had grown stronger. It turned out that the princess wanted to defeat him so badly that she had been practicing as hard as she could. Gradually, they managed to break through the barrier. Ren didn't understand why there were so many of them. If they didn't get through the beast tamer, they wouldn't escape from here. A creature of enormous size burst out of the ground right in front of them. The boy geared up to battle it with a magical sword made of metal. He struck a blow. With his sword, Ren chopped the monster in two. The princess was surprised that he himself had become much stronger. The beast tamer finally took off his hood. He was surprised at how powerful the airflow of the sword's dissecting sword could be. Ren recognized the man. The boy had not expected to meet him here. His name is Yelkuk, tamer of magical beasts. This is one of the bosses encountered in the first part of the Legend of the Seven Heroes. Ren had a hard time with his nature magic, but he is an adventurer wandering around the mainland, and Ren should have stumbled upon him after enrolling in the Imperial Cadet Corps. Ren didn't understand why he was here. Yelkuk is a ruthless elf from birth, banished from his homeland for killing many of his fellow elves. A powerful magical seal was placed on his hands as punishment for his atrocities. It weakens his status so severely that, without the aid of a staff, he cannot use two skills at once. Right now, Yelkuk does not use nature magic, most likely because Ren broke the staff when he was running away. Assuming he was hired by Viscount Gibbons, he was probably offered information about someone who could break the seal as a reward. Lucia asked if Ren thought they would win if it went on like this. Depending on his answer, she might change tactics. He still has 2D rank monsters, matching the wolf leader in strength. Ren recognized that if those two monsters attacked, it would be hard for them. There was a reason why the princess asked. Lucia reminded her that she was a white saint. She used her magic. Ren didn't think the girl would use it now. The beast tamer also did not expect it. The princess's magic took over the entire area of the plants surrounding them. The situation was heating up. This became an important moment in the battle. Yelkuk recognized the holy magic. The dragon attacked them with its flames. Lucia also prevented him from harming them. Her holy magic kept the fire out. In addition, the creature had its wing cut off. Ren realized that thanks to the princess's power, they would somehow make it through. Lucia was also confident that together with him, she could win. Now he was finished. All that remained was to take the final step. Ren plunged his sword into him. But before he hit the dragon trying to keep his master safe, the creature, feeling unbearable pain, crashed into them. As a result, they flew apart. All three fell to the ground, watched by Yelkuk. Blood was oozing from him. Night had already fallen. The battle site was ablaze. Ren was very worried about Lucia. She had not yet had time to recover, and using holy magic was too debilitating for her. Yelkuk stood in front of them and held the affected area with his sword. When he looked at the bloody hand, a smile appeared on his face. The boy laughed nervously. There's so much blood here. It's all his blood, and he'd put up with it for so long. He wanted to get rid of the seal and kill people, but now he can't. It must be the end. He won't be able to kill anymore. No, he still can. I wonder why. When he looks at the faces of dying people, he feels such indescribable pleasure, much more intense than when he sleeps with a woman. Ren didn't understand what was wrong with him. Yelkuk turned to the Mana Eater. He ordered him to eat his hand. The monster must eat it along with the seal placed on it. The creature chewed off his arm. To Yelkuk, it is not so much the maddening pain that matters as its goals. The Mana Eater swallowed the arm. It turned out that one hand was not enough to break the seal. Then, he no longer felt sorry for anything. His body was pierced through. It made the monster grow stronger. Yelkuk wondered if this was all that such a valuable potion could do. He felt unbearable pain. Ren carried the princess away from the scene of the upcoming heavy battle. The elf ordered him to be killed while he was still alive. The mana eater that had reached its limit was ready for battle. Ren could not strike because of the speed and fluidity of his movements, so he managed to attack first. It was difficult for the boy to cope with his power. The creature crushed everything under its feet. For a moment Ren still managed to stand his ground, but right after that, he couldn't withstand another attack. The Mana Eater is stronger than the Yelkuk he knows. This monster is a B-ranked monster. No, probably even higher. The giant was preparing for its next attack. Lucia saw Ren suffering defeat after defeat. The boy landed right in front of her. Yelkuk, laughing, said that was the kill, his last joy in life. The princess used holy magic to heal Ren. She thanked him for protecting such a selfish girl all this time. Ren asked Lucia to get out of here. She wanted at least him to survive. The monster was already close enough to them. Ren has no intention of running away, leaving Lucia here. The creature was going to crush them into a flapjack, but the boy drew his magic sword just in time. He held the Mana Eater's paw. For a while he managed to hold it off. The monster was never able to carry out his plans, ending the two in such a ruthless manner. He felt a piercing pain in his leg. Ren was also exhausted. He fell to the ground next to Lucia. At that moment, his magic bracelet signaled. It turned out that the boy had a new magic sword. The monster was preparing for another attack. Ren realized that he needed power. If there was anything he could defend himself with, he would use it, whatever it was. The situation was heating up. Now was the time to do something about it, for nothing would save him if he did nothing. The boy's magic pierced through the Mana Eater's body. This meant his absolute victory. Yelkuk could not believe it. There was a great flash. It grew into a magical light stretching all the way to the sky. All of this was the result of using the new sword. Ren wondered about this magic sword, namely where it came from. After a deadly battle, a woman woke her son with the words that Baron Klossel was finally being transported to the capital of the empire. People talked about how the trial had only ended a few days ago. This trial was only for appearances. The Viscount used to be the Assistant Minister of Justice. He must have organized all this with the help of his connections. The Baron was accompanied by knights on his way to the capital. The Viscount Gibbons stood out from the crowd. His knight was saying that there was not much left. The main thing is to finish the transportation, and then the supporters of the Imperial faction living in the capital will somehow deal with it. But he still wondered why the Viscount needed Ren Ashton so much. Lucia Klossel was understandable. She could be used. But he's just the son of a provincial knight. The Viscount assumed that everyone thought so. The knight asked him what he meant. Some time ago he happened to get hold of some information. If he could get hold of Ren Ashton, no, the entire Ashton family, then his Gibbons family could rise in the hero faction. Someday the knight will realize it too. But for now, only he will know the truth. More importantly, he is concerned about that incident in the forest. That light that was seen last night. If it is the power of a saint, then something may have happened to Yelkuk. Last night, the guy sent knights there to investigate. Now they should have arrested them by now. The Viscount hoped he wouldn't embarrass himself this time. They were already only one step ahead of the Imperial faction. Mistakes would not be tolerated. In the distance, they noticed someone's silhouette. Weiss immediately recognized the princess. Behind her sat an exhausted Ren. The commander-in-chief rushed toward her. Baron Klossel was not allowed to approach her. Weiss was madly relieved that they were fine. Lucia promised to tell everything later. Right now, she doesn't want Ren's efforts to be in vain. The princess realized that Viscount Gibbons was in front of her. He is glad he was able to meet the saint, but advised her to watch her tongue. But Lucia has not the slightest desire to exchange courtesies with the outlaw. Interesting things she says, but let her not be mistaken. The Viscount declared that the criminal was her father. She speaks boldly, but she looks obviously exhausted. She seems to have had a hard time. Like he was told, she's just a kid. She probably barely has the strength to be conscious. The princess offered to look at one thing and wondered if he would still make a nonchalant appearance even after seeing it. It's a magic item that the elf he hired had. If it was examined, maybe she could prove his involvement. The man replied that it was very strange to hear such things from a saint. Lucia stated that Ren's village had been attacked by an elf he had hired. The Viscount pretended as if he did not understand why she was accusing him. Does the princess think that this magical item is enough to say that he had something to do with it? Yet she says that if it is examined, it can be proven. Besides, they were attacked by his knights in the woods nearby. Gibbons hypothesized that someone was simply disguised as his knights. But Lucia remembers the face of this knight who raised his sword at her and Ren. The guy himself denied it. At his command, he commanded from outside the forest. From his version, the Viscount concluded that the saint had apparently been tricked by someone. Lucia thought they should talk in her town to verify. The Viscount saw no need to do so. Weiss stated that, as commander of the Colossal family's knighthood, he believed that what the young lady was saying needed to be thoroughly investigated. Givens said that this was not required. If they insist, we can have a trial in the capital of the empire again. Ren asked for a show of hands. The Viscount did not realize to whom he was saying this. The boy was saying it to his knight. The princess understood Ren's intentions. She also demanded to see the back of his hand. On his hand must be the wounds she and Ren had inflicted. Weiss also wanted him to do so. The knight tried to find an excuse for himself. The commander-in-chief demanded to show faster. Before his hand drew his sword, the knight had to fulfill the demand. From this, Weiss realized that he had no good potion at all. Indeed, the sword wound and also that white burn looked like they were inflicted by holy magic. The old man told him that wounds from holy magic leave marks after a while no matter what expensive potion he used. The Viscount, laughing, said that was enough. So, in order to also confirm his knight's innocence, should they not reconstruct a place of judgment? In any case, the truth should be found out already in the capital. Adhering to the great imperial law, the first trial has already been completed. The decision to relocate Baron Colossal will remain unchanged. Everyone was shocked by his statement. The Viscount decided to end it there. They continued on their way. It seemed that nothing could now be done to help the Baron. The princess wanted to stop them. She did not know what to do. Suddenly there was clapping of hands. A certain man said that a beautiful story, of which there was none better, had come before the Viscount's eyes, and he was naturally in a similar state of mind. Givens wondered who he was. His name is Edgar. He has asked the Lady Saint to rely on him here. He wished she would allow him to help her somewhat in bringing down the curtain on this story the two of them had created. Surely her miracle is not something to be trampled upon. With Viscount Givens they meet for the first time. He has received orders from his master and arrives at once at Colossal's. In that case, the Viscount demanded first to give his master's name. Edgar apologized for this. This coat of arms seemed familiar to them. Edgar saw that they understood even without the name calling. The Viscount declared that he was probably deceiving them. Forging the seals of nobility leads to the death penalty. He cannot allow the idea that respectable persons, be it the Viscount, do not understand such things. He turned to a gentleman of the imperial court. The gentleman commanded him in case of doubt to act freely, and also allowed him to speak for the gentleman. In view of the fact that the present trial is unnecessarily ambiguous, Edgar proposes a retrial of Colossal. The master owes an unpayable debt to the Colossal family and to this young man, Renee Ashton. Therefore, in the event that a situation such as the present one should arise, to the very end, he is commanded to help them. It is his will. The Viscount and his companions were frightened by this. Givens did not understand why he was acting. He should not assist them in this. Edgar reported that because of the miracle of awakening wrought by these children, the master was able to openly assist them. In addition, Ren Ashton saved the life of said person. By the way, he recently spoke of preventing at all costs. Ren woke up in a place he was unfamiliar with. Lucia had been waiting for this all along and worried about him. When she saw that he had come to his senses, the princess rushed to him. Ren learned that after they arrived at Colossal, he had been laid up for over a month. The Baron let him stay down for now. At least they wanted to take care of him until his wounds healed. He said that afterward a retrial was prepared within the same day, and they were able to successfully drop all charges against him. This was all thanks to him and Lucia. He thanked them from the bottom of his heart. Instead, a number of charges were brought against Viscount Givens, and the first session of the trial was to be opened on his premises. But the Viscount committed suicide by using a hidden poison. Ren doubted that it was definitely a suicide. The Baron speculated that he had been pressured by close relatives. Perhaps he had given up and decided it was better that way than getting caught. Someone set a fire on his estate, and the evidence turned to ashes. However, Lezard doesn't even know how many times he should thank him. First of all, this time they were helped by the high nobility only because of him. Ren didn't understand what he meant. It turned out to be about the wolf chief. From this wolf's materials, the ingredients for a valuable medicine could be obtained. If even one organ that becomes an ingredient is missing, it will not be possible to produce the medicine. The reason why it is difficult to obtain this medicine is because these ingredients cannot be found all over the world. But the organs of the wolf that the boy defeated were in perfect condition without a single damage. So the Baron made a deal with the Duke who needed them, with the stipulation that they would come to his aid in times of need. This seems to have saved his daughter, who had been bedridden for many years due to illness. He also wants to thank Ren. The Baron has been given a letter of invitation to his estate. Ren has seen this coat of arms somewhere. A great aristocrat that the pro-imperial faction is proud of, Duke Ignat. Ren remembered that it was the crest of the final boss from the Legend of the Seven Heroes. The man who, being the highest aristocrat, versed in both literature and the military arts, and solely holding the sea transport that the Empire prides itself on, allied himself with enemies plotting to revive the Demon King and attempted to destroy Liamel. But the occasion for Duke Ignat's rebellion against the Empire seems to have been the death of his daughter from illness. There wasn't even an event to save her, and his daughter's life was saved by Ren. The story began to change. After that, a week passed. The parents who had been injured after the attack on the village came to visit the boy after hearing that he was fine. Although the estate was completely burned down, they brought the surviving belongings with them. The father was proud of his son. Although not long ago he had been an infant, how wonderful he had become. By the way, at that moment, Ren felt as if his bracelet had taken the magic power from the crystal. On the bracelet, however, there was no longer any inscription left on it. Why, in that instant when he touched it, what was that sword that appeared then? Lucia is glad that his parents look cheerful. Ren suddenly stares at her. The boy apologized, but she noticed that he looked so fervent. Ren just wondered if she had a magic crystal in her body. The princess, surprised, asked how he knew. Had he really heard from his father? Ren apologized. Something felt like teasing them. He asked if all the saints had the same. Since it was him, she decided to say, even among the saints, only those with power place magic stones in their bodies. But only this is a secret. After all, only the saint's family and the highest clergy of the shrine know about it. Perhaps that magic sword has something to do with the tragedy of the Legend of the Seven Heroes. But if we are talking about such a powerful sword, there is that possibility. But still, is it really so? To do such a thing just for the sake of obtaining a magic sword? It can't be helped, because the reason for it. Come to think of it, Ren had given himself wholeheartedly to avoid this future. But in the end, even though he had tried not to mess with it until today, Ren had similarly gotten to the Colossals. Indeed, because he had defeated the Wolf Chief, an irrevocable change had occurred in Ren's past in the Legend of the Seven Heroes that he had previously seen in his dreams. The father who was supposed to die and Yerku who was supposed to be the mid-boss in the first part. The fate of Ignat's daughter also changed, and Duke Ignat himself will now not turn his blade toward Liamel. One by one, each choice affects this world. The girl asked what was wrong with him. Ren simply hesitated. Lucia said Ren was her hero and no one else. The day they first met, he left her so many bruises, and then suddenly he said warm words, unfair of him. The office of the director of the Imperial Military Academy. The newspapers said that there are also those who praise the rays of light that appeared in the colossal territory as an act of the saints of which the colossal family is proud. However, their exact nature has not been established. Is the flash of light seen everywhere from the continent of Tenku the power of a hero? Others have written that the light appearing during factional combat is the wrath of the chief elven deity, the director of the Chrono Highland Academy. The girl remarked that it would be nice if there was someone in this world to dispel her boredom. According to the plot in the Legend of the Seven Heroes, several events suddenly happen in the capital of the Empire. The aristocracy is dying for some unknown reason, and the maddened royal guard has turned on the third prince. Some said it was an invasion of their country. Others said it was the wrath of God. But it was not. All this unthinkable commotion was the work of a criminal driven by revenge. The Marquis Ignatius, head of the royalist faction. His sick daughter needed medicine. No matter how hard Marquis Ignat searched, he still couldn't find the ingredients for the right medicine. But the imperial family had them, just in case, except that the emperor refused to give them up. They said that the emperor's family might need the ingredients themselves if something happened to them, so their refusal didn't seem to be wrong. But the Marquis's daughter had died, and the Marquis Ignat hated the empire. But now it doesn't seem to come to that. The Marquis was really impressed, having learned a lot about the boy. Edgar had no doubt that Ren Ashton was priceless, and he was sure Duke Ignat would agree. Edgar had told him a highly entertaining tale. Now, thanks to him, his anger towards His Majesty had subsided a bit. He understands. After all, the Emperor didn't give away the ingredients because his family might need them. But that doesn't mean he's been overpowered. The Duke was approached by his daughter. Edgar rushed to her to offer her hand, but she asked not to worry. She must manage on her own somehow, right? She inquired how the trip to Colossal had gone. He replied that it was successful. Edgar asked Mrs. Fiona not to speak in such a respectful tone to her subordinate. But Fiona always talks like that, thanks to her mom. She too wants to go to Colossal and thank Ren Ashton. The Duke does too, but Baron Colossal has asked to wait. He and Baron Colossal are from different factions. After all, they belong to the Marquesses. All the more reason for them to wait. Fiona asked about sending them a letter. The Duke liked the idea, but for now they should also respect Baron Colossal's dictates. She must bear with it a little longer. Someday she would surely meet him and thank him. Colossal, deep in the night, Ren examined a rare item, the Azure Pearl of Sarakia. It seemed to absorb his magic into himself. It looks just like an egg. Its surface, which appears to be a shell, is actually so hard that it can withstand a blow from the strongest sword. If you touch it, you'll feel an incredible power. Something can hatch from this egg if you give it a huge amount of magic and a huge dragon horn. And after that, what is born will be loyal to you as a master for the rest of its life. Yes, it was said in the game book that there was a certain monster slumbering inside him, capable of making the Demon King tremble in fear with the power of absolute darkness and chilling cold. It was said that no one could make it hatch or find any use for it, and in the end, everyone just thought it was a thing to sell. Lucia knocked on his door. She apologized for coming in so late, as she wanted to talk to him. The princess noticed that he was looking at this mysterious treasure of his again. This is what was left of the Wolf Chief. His parents brought it to him along with a change of underwear the other day. The girl was surprised that it didn't even burn in that fire. If it contains truly powerful magic, it shouldn't be sold. It would be safer to keep it to yourself. It's still so strong that it's not easy to destroy. Lucia asked how much longer Colossal would have him. Ren had almost recovered, and though he hoped to see them a couple or 3 more times, then the girl said he could see her 1,000 more times. Ren realized that it would take quite a long time. Even if seeing each other once every day, it would have to be about 3 years. Lucia had tried to convince him of that. Her dad had let him live in this room. She insisted on it, albeit without 1,000 meetings, but at least for a little while longer he could stay here. Then Ren decided to stay here for a while longer thanks to them. And thus, continuing to see Lucia, they went shopping together. It bothered Ren that the princess wanted to take this suit to him, although she was not sorry for her pocket money, and lived a busy life. And on one such day, the boy learned that a private cavalry order had come to see Colossal. Weiss would look at the sword technique of the lady, and offered to go with him since he was here. Ren didn't refuse the offer. He inquired if some high-ranking knight had arrived. Since he has the power to lead the rank and file, Weiss concluded that yes. He heard he belonged to the current of the sacred sword art. This current was founded as early as Hero Ruin. This art was studied by many knights as far as Ren knows. Weiss replied that was correct. Many knights usually don't train in any one basic thing, but choose a trend that suits them, and a great many of those knights give their preference to the sacred sword art. There are many different factions in the world, and no matter what current they belong to, by perfecting their skills time after time, their knights become capable of countering magic with the art of swordsmanship. For those not born with a certain skill, this power supersedes everything. Ren remembers these techniques in the game, but he couldn't just pick up and copy this art. Weiss here didn't choose the sacred sword art, but decided to stick with the sword art of the Empire. Ren considers it worthy. It's like a shield for Mr. Lizard. Weiss decided to train the boy in the sword art of the Empire. Speaking of which, in the Legend of the Seven Heroes, Lady Lucia was the representative of the sacred sword skill. Its peculiarity is that in addition to offensive and defensive, it provides universal support. One only needs to know how to use it. The owners of such swords are ranked according to their ranks, and Lady Lucia was the second after the best owner, and she was called the Master of the Sword. And the very first was called the King of the Sword, and there are only 5 such men among all the possible branches of swordsmanship in the world. Ren wondered if Weiss had thought about learning other techniques. As it turned out, he had once. For example, he wanted to learn the art of the solid sword, but it takes talent to learn it in their time, which is actually the reason why there are so few adherents. The founder of this skill is the King of Beasts, Liamel. In the Legend of the Seven Heroes, such a sword was an enemy weapon used by opponents of the Imperial faction. The art of swordsmanship and the usual skill are different things, so you cannot learn them, playing the game only the second week. A powerful attack and defense, such a brutal and completely incomprehensible power that was impossible to master. That's what it is to players, and therefore frustrated them. And then the protagonist remembered something he didn't want to. The possessors of the art of solid sword are incredibly powerful, and so Ren didn't want to engage in battle with them, because they would lower his status. Also, they dealt damage instantly and inevitably. Lucia suggested that he study together. The boy refused. He had just come to check on her, but if he wished, he was allowed to join the White Saint. She has already told him that he surpasses her in strength, and even Lord Weiss admits that he has great promise if he becomes a knight. Ren tried to deny it, but the man would like to take a look at his sword skills first, if allowed. He suggested starting with the simplest of blows. The battle began. The trainer advised him to fight in his own way, no need to try to repeat after him. And then Ren remembered that when he was playing, he was just copying the skill of the sacred sword. The boy pulled himself together. During the battle, he tried to adhere to his advice. The coach drew his own conclusions from it. He broke through his defenses, but Ren was able to repel the blow, which surprised him. The coach asked for his name, which the boy had completely forgotten. The man thinks Mr. Ashton is no match for the art of the sacred sword. This caused Lucia to misunderstand. Ren, on the other hand, is very strong. He admits it. The problem is whether the skill is suitable for him. Perhaps some of his habits are ingrained in him through his father's instruction. Without a doubt, such a style of attack, such a harsh manner of fighting, is Mr. Ashton's style, and this innate manner could backfire on him if he were to learn the skill of the sacred sword. Some things can be tweaked with training, of course, but in Mr. Ren's case, it will only make it harder for him to work with the sword. Even if one tried to teach him the art of the sacred sword, there was no guarantee that he would actually be able to master this combat technique. So, he would be better off not touching him or instilling unnecessary habits in him. Ren understood everything. The boy asked if he could teach him normal techniques then. The man gladly agreed. He would really like to be a mentor for a promising young man like Mr. Ren. One of the men did not understand why the Commodore had told him that his rage and cruelty were no obstacle to learning the art of the sacred sword. It turned out that as soon as they crossed swords, he realized that it was more likely that this young man had a talent for another skill. Lucia saw no good in him agreeing to be his mentor. From her tone, Ren could sense that she was in a spoiled mood. He knew she had a habit of winding a strand of hair around her finger when she was in a bad mood. The princess was surprised, but as it turned out, Ren had lied. But her reaction clearly shows that he guessed at a bad mood. Lucia resented the way the commander said that the boy had no talent. Ren thought that maybe that was really true. After all, it was good that he said it right away and didn't waste time on him. He asked him not to think about him and just keep practicing further. It wouldn't do them any good after all. If you reason like the Commodore, Lucia also has some sword habits that are, well, very similar to his. After all, in order to defeat him, she spent a very long time studying his style, his movements, the way he fights, constantly recreating his image in her head. And apparently that's why she has a piece of his swordsmanship. The princess is told that she needs to correct these points, but she doesn't want these habits of hers corrected. It feels like she's being told that Ren is the wrong target for her, and she doesn't want to put up with it. That's why Ren tells them to ignore him. Lucia reminds her that there are other sword techniques, so she doesn't have to focus solely on the sacred sword art. Suddenly, some other direction is more suitable for her too. Ren thought about the fact that Mrs. Lucia, on the other hand, was studying precisely the art of the sacred sword. The girl asked if he was told that the skill his father had passed on to him was completely unnecessary. Would he just nod his head obediently? She wouldn't do that either. Ren realized that he was the son of a simple knight from the village, and she was a saint of the whites. He is not free to take and learn swordsmanship, and Lucia does not owe it to anyone to learn it. Her father told her to study what she wants and to seek her own path, the one that would be perfect for her. And her mom would want to see her find it too. It is hard for her to both learn things and get rid of her old habits at the same time. It's just a waste of time. In that case, you can try to learn something else, and then she can move on. Ren realized, Lucia is Lucia, not what was in her place in the game. Then he would help her too, to find the perfect path for her. The princess decided that was their path. Fiona was gradually learning to walk on her own. So, one day while walking, she lost her balance and fell down. She had no strength. The maid thought it would be better to stop for the day. But she didn't even think about it. She is inferior to her peers, so she needs to put in many times more effort. She's been bedridden for so long that even now it's hard for her to walk on her own. Fiona wanted to make more effort. She believed she could stop in time and not hurt herself. She believed that someday she would be able to stand firmly in front of him and thank him. Out of the abyss she had been in until now, where she was torn daily by pain throughout her body. To him, her liberator, the maid called it an incredible job. It was disconcerting to Fiona that even such an endeavor could be called incredible. The father watched his daughter from his study and agreed that it was a good job. He received a letter for her. It's from the Imperial Military Academy. It has her name on it. Fiona knew it might be the results of the entrance exam she took last month. From the letter, she learned that she had passed. Although the Duke had not expected her to have a different result, Fiona did not understand why. He asked the maid if she agreed with him. The girl was proud that even when Oji-sama's health didn't allow her to do more, she studied hard while in bed. Father confessed that he was only concerned about the last exam. Fiona was very worried about whether or not she would pass. The Duke offered to put in even more effort. If she suffered before she thanked Ren Ashton, it would all be for nothing. She had already realized that. Baron Colossal inquired about what Ren was going to do next. As long as he didn't become the head, living with the Colossal family wasn't bad. Continuing to serve as a knight is also commendable. If he's thinking about something, let him not be shy. Of course, Ren would like to live with his family again. He thinks he'd probably bring more problems. He probably shouldn't go back to the village. Lezard agreed with this. He had heard that the Viscount was morbidly concerned about him. In fact, Roy had discussed it with him as well. According to him, if Ren is pursued again, it won't be a problem to protect him from the monster. But they are powerless in front of an aristocrat. Therefore, he wants Ren to become a knight in Colossal Manor. The boy was surprised that his father said so, and the Baron replied that he would support any decision of Ren. Personally, he thinks there is no need to rush into life's decisions. For the time being, he can relaxedly live in the manor until the village is rebuilt. Ren was grateful to him. Could it be hoped that someday he would solve it all on his own? For the son of an ordinary knight, this was too much to ask. The Baron felt that Ren just needed to become someone who would surprise even the great aristocrats. The boy doubted that. When it comes to the top aristocracy, the only option is to marry into an imperial family. Lezard called the story itself complicated, but he means it differently. And this is the King of Swords. This surprised Ren. The Baron is talking about the 5 strongest sword masters in the world. As he knows, the 5 strongest sword masters act at their own discretion and are independent of nations. And among them, there are those who live in the capital of the empire. But it is only their choice. In the legend of the 7 heroes, there is only one sword king available for battle. Even if the enemy offers mercy and the protagonist raises all levels to maximum, it is impossible to win without luck. The Baron recognized that in any case, growth never hurts. It's not a bad idea to enlist Weiss's support, along with Lucia's. He takes responsibility and living expenses. Ren is glad, but can't sit idle. He would like to help with some work. Lezard asked to do the same work he did while living in the village. Ren realized that it meant suppressing monsters. He has the right idea. The consequences of the spread of monsters to the boy are known. Therefore, the Baron would also like to study the monsters around. The work would involve confirming the location of the monsters, periodic reports, and destroying them if necessary. Also, while he's out of town, he can take care of the Adventurers Guild's errands. Ren assumed he had come to the guild building. The adventurers present turned their attention to him. The boy asked to register him, but the girl wanted to make sure. Ren asked what was wrong. She inquired if he had already spoken to Baron Colossal. The boy replied that it was fine. He had recently received permission from him. His registration fee covered the ability to read and write, so an explanation would not be out of place. She asked if this was his first registration and surely there could be no mistake. Ren confirmed that it was. The girl was surprised that he was so habitual about it. She handed him an explanation of the conditions for rank promotion. Ren knew it since he had read it in a book. Also knows about the cost charged for reissuing a guild card, and the number of guilds dealing with this is limited to the circle of those he registered with before. He has seen all the information about monsters in the area. Strong monsters rarely enter Colossal's territory. Even D-ranked monsters are barely seen. The 2 guys behind him were surprised that Mr. Hero was concerned about it. That was what they were saying exactly about him. The skirmish with the jerkish Viscount was at its height. The other guy asked for it to stop. It's a D-rank monster, but it doesn't carry damage alone, so it doesn't get touched. But the defense reaction to an attack would match its rank. Ren learned about the steel-eating gargoyle. Predatory gargoyles usually feed on metals and minerals, but sometimes excellent individuals are born. Materials are expensive and skills are highly honed, so he'll even be able to afford a new magic sword. But it's worth asking Lezard before the battle. The summoning level of the magic sword has increased after the battle with Yelkuk. Now he can summon 2 magic swords at a time. Ren encountered a Mitsum, an F-rank monster. He summoned a steel magic sword and afterward a wooden sword. It is very convenient to take a monster imprisoned in natural nets. Ren found that the level of the steel magic sword had been successfully raised. Does the wooden magic sword have that maximum level? He hoped that it wasn't the last level. He wondered if there were conditions for level increase. There was still so much to consider. The little guy brought his loot to the guild. The adventurers were surprised to see it. The girl asked if she could buy it all back. The monster was an E-rank earthworm. The magic stones were seized, but he asked for an appraisal. Ren earned 600,000 gold. Weiss had mentioned earlier that the average resident's income was around 10,000 gold, so he did a good job today. He would even have to get a wallet soon. He was thinking of stopping by here tomorrow with Lucia. A month later, the princess learned that the boy was moving, and it worried her very much. Ren explained that he was taking too much advantage of their kindness. Lucia reminded him that they had asked him not to worry, and now he could live in that room again. Ren said that everything was fine. He is still a member of the Ashton family and serves Mrs. Lucia, so asked him to tell him how to go to the old manor. The boy talked to Mr. Lizard and he put him in charge of the old manor, and living in the guest room was not an option, so he would still be there if it was allowed. The princess thought he would head back to the village. Ren apologized, he wanted to say it later. The maid brought a package for him. Lucia realized that he had bought something from that store with the emblem. Opening the box, he held it out to her. Ren handed her the dress. He had bought it the first day he earned the money. The princess thought it was very nice. If she didn't like it, Ren could get another one, but she wasn't going to give it away. The boy wondered if she liked it. Lucia said it wasn't fair. Ren suggested that one gift wasn't enough for her to forgive him. It turned out to be. It all happened so fast, she didn't even have time to gather her thoughts. And the princess also asked her not to think that her attitude had changed in any way. Inside his dream, Ren recalled one scene from the Legend of the Seven Heroes, Chrono Highland, better known as the world's greatest magician, after Lucia Colossal. Ren Ashton killed her as well. Speaking of Chrono, she is actually the head of the Imperial Military Academy. In the game, she is a character equal to the Sword Kings, so how Ren slew her will remain a mystery. Ren didn't like this horrible dream. One would have to try to avoid such a future. Right now, one should stay as far away from the Imperial capital and the military academy as possible. The locals welcomed Mr. Hero, Adventurers Guild. Ren inquired if there was anything of interest. A rumbling in his stomach was heard. He probably hadn't had much breakfast. The girl sitting at the table behind took notice. She suggested he sit down and have breakfast with her if he wanted. Of course, she's buying, so he can feel free. The boy replied that he had enough money, which surprised her. But all the seats seemed to be taken, so he decides to sit down with her. Ren can't see her face because of her hood, but she doesn't seem to be a local. The girl found out that he was a simple customer. No wonder then that he was so mature for his age. Ren believed that everything comes with age. She agreed with him. He really is bright. He noticed that her voice sounded unnatural. Perhaps it was coming from some magical device. Ren inquired about the reason why he had been summoned. The girl replied that it was just a feeling. If an excuse was needed, the cute rumbling of his stomach became curious what kind of child he was, so she decided to talk. He asked her what she thought now that they were talking. The girl is thinking about organizing his kidnapping. After that, she immediately laughed, calling it a joke. If she did something like that, the knights would arrest her at once. But what does he think? Wouldn't he want to go to the imperial capital with her? He's nice to talk to after all. After thinking about the capital, Ren decided that definitely not. She said that such a harsh refusal would hurt right in the heart. From that, the boy realized that she was from the capital. The girl confirmed it. She is in these parts on a personal matter. It's quite a journey. First by magic ship, then by harness. And she would really like to have a longer chat with him, but she's in a hurry now. Perhaps the next time they meet again. And then, she'll tell him more about the strange magic he wields. Ren rushed after her. He realized she was about summoning the demon sword. He didn't tell anyone about it. The girl disappeared. The adventurer asked if he was also going to the eastern forest today. If so, they offered to join them. A couple of youths are going deep into the forest today, so the guild sent them to hunt in the surrounding area just in case. This isn't an escort mission, just to keep an eye out and intervene if something goes wrong. Ren has to refuse. In fact, he is here on one errand for the Baron. The adventurers realized that there was no arguing. If given the chance, he would be looked at in action. Ren asked to be shown when he had time. He was tormented by the question of who this stranger was. Ren once again defeated the subterranean worm. Today's test is going well, and it looks like he's going to make a nice sum of money. Lord Lizard let him use the money he earned. When he lived at home, Ren could even buy and sell magic tools. I wonder if the others will like it. In the forest, the boy heard a familiar voice. A battle was being fought in the gorge. The two adventurers could not overcome the monster. They did not understand why it had appeared here. The other guys were at their limit. The monster seriously injured Kai. Madas was also barely holding back the attack. Ren came to the adventurer's aid. He knew that Growl belonged to the steel-eating gargoyle. He also didn't understand why such a monster appeared here. The bulletin said that they stay away from Colossal. Ren decided to apprehend him, and he and his partner let him get everyone out of here. Ren engaged in battle with the monster. The gargoyle's hide is, as expected, dense, but the only defenseless spot was its eyes, which he took advantage of. Even if it belongs to the D-rank monster class, it is far from the power of a wolf leader. Ren skillfully repelled the attack with 2 swords at once. Another monster descended toward them. It was another gargoyle. The boy wasn't expecting it.